Welcome to On My Way to Wealth, the podcast where busy Gen Xers can learn financial tips as they navigate life on their way to wealth. And now, please join your host, Luis Rosa.
This episode is brought to you by Latin Excellence. Visit latinexcellence.com. That's Latinx, CELLENCE.com or latinxmovement.com to learn more and shop our merchandise. You are excellence. Hello and welcome to another episode of On My Way to Wealth. My name is Luis and I'm your host. I hope everybody's doing well. Wanted to address the fact that the IRS is hiring 87,000 new agents. You might have seen this in the news, social media, headlines. Some people are panicking because they're thinking the IRS is just going to come after them, right? So I wanted to put your mind at ease and tell you that that is not the case, right? I wanted to tell you why, but first, I want to show you some of the problems that the IRS has been having. You know, you may not be one of those people that has experienced a delay in processing refunds and so on, but I wanted to just kind of give you some stats to give you some context as to why the IRS needs the funding and the staff that is being provided by the Inflation Reduction Act that was just signed into law. So as of June of 2022, the IRS has still yet to process about 20 million tax returns. You know, so that's a lot of people whose refunds have not been processed as a result of these delays. Now, let me tell you why these delays are in place. I'm going to share a link in the show notes from the Taxpayer Advocate Service in case you want to see kind of like the list of all the serious problems that they list as far, based on their studies of the current problems in the IRS. So the first one that they list is the processing and refund delays. So they title it Excessive Processing and Refund Delays, which harm taxpayers. You know, so they gave us some stats. They said during the 2021, at the end of the 2021 filing season, the IRS had 35.3 million tax returns that were still awaiting manual processing. You know, so what happens is a lot of tax returns are filed electronically. Most of them are, but there are some returns that still need manual processing because they couldn't be e-filed for one reason or the other. So as of June 2022, there were still 20 million or so returns that still had yet to be processed. You know, that's a huge delay. I have a lot of clients that have called me that we filed their returns in February, March, and they still haven't received their refund, and it's August, you know, months later. Right, so I've seen this happen. Major problem there. So the IRS, severely understaffed, under budget up until this point, right? So think about it this way, right? 35.3 million returns as of the end of 2021. And then about June 2022, they still have about 20 million returns that they have yet to process, right? And you could be one of them. Your return could be one of those. The second thing that they list is IRS recruitment, hiring, and training. They list the lack of sufficient and highly trained employees, which impedes the effective tax administration. So they're going to say that the IRS budget was reduced nearly 20% in inflation-adjusted dollars from the period between 2010 and 2021. So they have seen their budget actually been reduced for over a decade. And in addition to that, they lost over 33,000 full-time employees for that same period of time, right? So think about it this way. Their budget has been shrinking. Their employees have been shrinking. That starts to accumulate, right? And then what happens? The pandemic happens. COVID hits, right? Now that created an even, just kind of like the perfect storm, right? The phone service, they say, went from bad to worse. The phone service was already bad. But during COVID-19, calls had reached an all-time high and the level of service fell to an all-time low. You know, so we have under budget IRS, understaffed, archaic systems, high phone wait times, right? And terrible customer service, right? So this is pretty bad. And as a taxpayer, you shouldn't have to deal with those frustrations. You know, I've tried to call the IRS. Sometimes it takes over an hour, maybe more to get through. And sometimes if you do, it's a robot. You can't get somebody on the phone. The system hangs up on you. You got to dial back. I mean, it's been pretty bad. Plus the fact that they have so many millions of unopened mail. and unprocessed return, right? Another thing that they list is the difficulties experienced during the 21 filing season. They too described it as the perfect storm, they called it. One of the most challenging seasons experienced by tens of millions of taxpayers. I remember that myself as a tax preparer. It probably was the worst tax season during the pandemic. Even though they extended the date that tax returns were due, it was really, really pretty bad, especially with all the changes that happened in between. So I wanted to give you just some of that context, right? The other thing that they list is the online accounts. You can set up your own IRS online account. Apparently, those systems do not have sufficient functionality and integration with existing tools to meet the needs of both taxpayers and practitioners. So, most of us are on our computers and mobile devices to access financial accounts. The IRS experiences severe disruptions, according to this site here, especially during COVID-19 pandemic. So this is a huge problem, right? We're supposed to be able to have access to our online accounts. They're supposed to be robust systems that we can see how much do we owe. Can we set up a payment plan? You need access to your information from this federal system, right? So right now they have it's really not a system that is fully integrated and functional, right? So this is another reason why they're getting this funding. The other problem that they list is digital communications. It says that the tools are limited, which makes communication with the IRS unnecessarily difficult. So that's another thing, that needs a facelift, if you would. Another thing was filing returns electronically. About 90% of individual returns and about 69% of business returns were e-filed through October 2021, the taxpayer advocate says on their website. But there's still some returns that require paper filing that hopefully one day the IRS figures out a way to convert them into the ability to be able to be e-filed, because paper returns and require manual processing. Manual processing is going to require an actual human being, right? And that's going to create delays if they're understaffed. It's going to create maybe some errors, right? As opposed to e-filing. When you e-file your returns, it reduces the errors, quicker processing, quicker turnaround times, right? The other thing too was correspondence with the IRS, especially when you're dealing with an IRS letter, an audit of some sort. They have questions. This has been pretty much a nightmare for a lot of people to get an IRS letter inquiring about something. The response rate has been pretty bad. So this is another thing that has a very high volume of cases with very little communication or very poor communication from the IRS. So yes, they are getting about $80 billion, some of which they're going to use to hire 87,000 new agents. But fear not, it's not designed to make audits higher and go after the average worker, right? That's not the intended purpose. The IRS commissioner has stated that they're expecting for audit rates to stay pretty much the same or even get better. And also that people earning under $400,000 should really see hardly any change. If anything, they should see some improvements in the processing of returns, returning of phone calls, correspondence with the IRS, and so forth. So this part of the IRS funding is designed to revamp it, make it better, make it easier to interact with the IRS online, on your phone, via communications by paper, file your returns faster, get your refunds sooner, and so on. Yes, there's also a component of them going after corporations and higher net worth individuals that are usually not audited as much, right? But they are going to be paying more attention to those higher income earners. So I wanted to pass this information along. I hope that it actually gives you some relief if you're one of those that were concerned about 87,000 new agents. It's not designed to target the middle class, so worry not. I think that this is going to make a better experience for both taxpayers and tax professionals that help taxpayers with the taxes going forward. So I am personally excited about it because I feel like their systems are pretty hard to deal with sometimes. And hopefully they revamp this so that we can help people even better, right? So fear not. this is actually a good thing. If you have any questions, as always, send me an email, luis@onmywaytowealth.com. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to On My Way to Wealth. If you have any questions, please send me an email at luis@onmywaytowealth.com. The information provided here is for information and education purposes only. The opinions expressed herein are solely those of myself, unless otherwise specifically cited. Material presented is believed to be from reliable sources, and no representations are made by my firm or myself about other parties' information or accuracy or completeness. All information or ideas provided should be discussed in detail with a financial advisor, accountant, or legal counsel prior to implementation. Thank you.